You're all set.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com/. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: https://www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay, first up, we have minutes of 9/29/2020. Any modifications, edits, corrections from anybody? I'm seeing head shakes. Okay, then do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of 9/29/2020?
So moved.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
We got a second. All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. Okay, next we have the minutes of the October 1st, 2020 meeting. Any modifications, edits, corrections? No? Silent acceptance? All right, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of October 1st, 2020?
So moved.
Here, a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Abstain.
Pete.
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. Okay, and then we have the minutes of October 22nd, 2020. Same thing, any modifications, edits, corrections? See head shakes back and forth. So do you hear a motion to accept the minutes of October 22nd, 2020?
So move.
So moved.
And maybe a second there someplace?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Okay.
That may be the first time in the history of the Conservation Commission they've had 3 meeting minutes approved without corrections.
Thank you, Katie.
Good job, Katie. Okay, let's see. First up here, we have request for determination of applicability, 12 Richards Road, map 9, lot 4. It's a replacement/expansion of garage bay. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 31, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing Thursday, November 12th, 2020, at 7 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The Commission will consider a request for determination for a project at 12 Richards Road, map 9, lot 4, for the applicant John Boland. The project description is replacement of existing attached shed to a garage bay.
John, you should be moved up if you want to unmute yourself. I guess
How's that, all right?
you are good.
Okay.
I guess, John, do you want to do a quick overview of what you're doing?
Okay, just briefly, as you said, I live at 12 Richards Road. I'm planning to put a, excuse me, to tear down an existing shed that's attached to my garage on the west end of the house. As part of my planning for doing just that, I investigated the condition of the foundation under the existing shed. I had to excavate down to, it made me nervous. There was severe cracking and what have you in the foundation. Well, once I dug down beside the foundation, I found out that that's the reason why it's all cracked, so it's only 2 feet deep. So that kind of an investment, there's no sense of even trying to attempt to use that existing foundation. So anyway, I moved forward to expand that and put a reasonable foundation in there below the frost line with the footing and all the necessary things under the code. That, of course, added a significant expense to what was a pretty small project. So anyway, in doing so, I wanted to, in order to make it worth my while, excuse me, to make the shed just a little bit bigger and make it, number one, more useful, and number two, make it into a second bay on my garage. I've been to the ZBA and I approved the variance for, because I was too close to the lot line. They have approved that variance. As you can see from the plan, the 100-foot setback goes right through the middle of my proposed project. There's a intermittent stream that ends across the street from my house, where it enters a 30-inch concrete pipe. Takes it down about 140 feet thereabouts, west on Richards Road, where it discharges into the open channel once again. Excuse me. The intermittent stream across the street is about 85 feet between my proposed project and the inlet to the pipe. That's about it, I guess.
Okay. Any questions from commission members? No?
We're gonna, Matt did a review of it. We're gonna listen to that.
So I didn't send this one to Matt. I did a review myself. So the only thing that I kind of saw was that there wasn't, erosion control is proposed on the plan. So that would be the only thing that the commission might want to condition. But this, culvert has been pretty reviewed in the past and where it enters and, the status of the stream. So I think that has been pretty well documented historically.
Yeah, I agree, Melissa. This stream and the culvert's been reviewed ad nauseum with the house across the street and the development behind it and Mass Pike and so forth. So, I don't see any issues with this at all, personally. Anybody else?
No.
No. So I think I'm looking for a motion on a negative determination.
And do we want the condition of like a straw wattle to be placed along the driveway, at least at the end of each day while construction is ongoing?
It's pretty flat out there. I don't know. I mean,
It'd have to cross the road.
Is the road crowned in that area? I mean, is the road crowned? Does it present somewhat of a barrier to flow?
Yes, yeah, it does. There's a significant crown there. What stays on my side stays on my side, and the same thing for the opposite side of the street. For what it's worth, I certainly wouldn't have any objection to putting a barrier on the, pardon me, on the on that patch of grass along there and at the end of my driveway. That's no problem at all.
John, are you talking like around that manhole at the end of your property there, something like that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly condition that. I'm not sure it's gonna trap much. It's pretty flat.
It is. Yes.
I mean, we can certainly condition that if it's needed in a heavy rainstorm or something.
How long do you think it's going to take you to do the whole project from start to finish?
It depends at this point in time. It depends on the weather, of course. If I can get the contractor back to get the foundation in and the slab done this year, I'll be satisfied with that. It's a small project. He's probably going to be in here. The excavation man will probably be here a week or so, or thereabouts. 2 at the tops, I would guess. And the actual construction of the shed at that point will wait till spring. I'll be doing that myself, and I'm not going to stand out there all winter building my shed.
Yeah, I guess I think if you're going to have open earth for such a short time and it's fairly flat, pick a non-rainy week.
Right, exactly.
All right, do I hear a motion for negative determination with the provision of protecting the manhole cover from any erosion with straw wattles?
In public, maybe public comment.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. If
Any public
anyone
comment on this?
use the raise hand feature if you do. And I'm not seeing anyone. Okay,
No raised hands?
no raised hands.
Okay. All right, then I'll go back to what I said previously. Do I hear a motion for a negative determination with a condition provision to protect erosion from the manhole cover with straw wattles?
So
So moved. Oh, okay.
Here a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
yes,
Massimo.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
you,
Next
John.
up is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
No, I was just saying thank you to John, and I will touch base with him tomorrow about the permit.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
All right, John, take care. Next up, 11B Bigelow Road, notice of intent. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the South Row Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 12th, 2020, at 7:10 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located 11B Bigelow Road, map 60, lot 6A, for the applicant Christopher Shea. The project description is installation of an in-ground pool.
Hi there.
Good evening.
How you doing? Mitch Maslenka with Goddard Consulting. and tonight I'll be representing the applicant, Chris Shea, for his proposed pool project. So at 11B Bigelow Road, I'll just give you a existing view of kind of what the site looks like at the moment. So you go down his gravel driveway, you get to a flat area where there's a shed, and just to the right of his driveway is his 2-story house. Beyond his house, there's about 40 feet of flat lawn, and then a pretty steep slope dipping down 50 feet down towards bordering vegetated wetlands. This project has been seen by the commission before. So this wetland line was created by Three Oaks Environmental, but was confirmed accurate by Goddard Consulting. And according to LE's peer review letter, they also agree that the BVW line is accurate. So at the base of the slope, that's where the BVW is. There's a 20-foot no disturb buffer zone that won't be touched during our project. And there is also a 50-foot buffer zone that will not be disturbed. Melissa, I just sent you an email with an updated site plan that just has a few tweaks that we made after we got Ellie's letter. We just had it finished up this evening. So, oh, perfect. All right, thank you. So now I'll start discussing the proposed project here. So we're proposing a pool, 16 by 36 feet. Surrounded, it's going to be an in-ground pool, salt water. It'll be surrounded by a stone paver patio space. Each paver will be separated by sand, so that water can drain through those stone pavers as they exit the pool. We're also proposing at the outside of the patio space a stone swale system that's will go something like this. So if water makes it past these stone pavers and hits these the stone swale area, it'll be an 18-inch width of riverbank stones, nice looking stones that water will be able to penetrate through, travel down into this trench that'll be 2 feet deep, a foot deep of riverbank stones, and another foot deep of gravel. This way the water will be able to flow down into those stones, into the gravel, and outside of the trench. The trench will be first lined with construction matting and then filled in with the gravel and stone banks on top. Just outside of our drainage swale, we'll have a chain link fence traveling around the pool space, the patio space, and continuing over towards the shed and behind a proposed pool house, 16 by 12 feet in size. We're also proposing the stone swale drainage system behind the pool house to avoid stormwater runoff coming off of the roof and hitting the steep slope there. So the slope is a bit less steep behind where that pool house is going to be. But we have proposed that to avoid any erosion issues. Also, to avoid erosion and sedimentation, we've proposed erosion control barriers in the form of silt fence and filter mitt socks that'll travel along the 50-foot buffer zone. There is just the tiniest little bit that will impact the 50-foot buffer zone right by the pool shed. That'll just be so we can have enough room to put in the stone swale there. Yep, right where the mouse is right now. Just looks like maybe 5 square feet of impact of the 50-foot buffer zone. So besides that, we read over Ellie's recommendations and such, and one of the things brought up was drainage of the pool if it ever had to be drained. We have decided that the pool will be drained into a pump truck and delivered off site if it is ever to be drained. So we did not show a drainage plan on the site plans. Other than that, we're open for questions from the commission.
Okay, thank you. I have one question.
Sure.
When you go to clean out the, the pool pump and the equipment associated with, the pool, where's that water going to discharge to?
So that water will likely discharge towards where it says 4-foot gate, just to the southeast of the pool house. There is some flat area that will, it eventually slopes down a path, but it'll discharge there.
So basically using the 18-inch wide stone swale to accommodate that?
I wasn't thinking that, just a bit south of that swale. But, perhaps that wouldn't be a bad idea, putting it in the swale and around that area too.
If it could handle it.
Yeah, good call.
Okay, I'll ask Matt for any of his comments before I open up to the commission. From L. Lucas Environmental.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think pretty much all the comments that I had included in my memo have been addressed by this revised plan. I guess my only other comment would be based on this. I know we had a similar project with a pool that I can't remember exactly what the solution was for pumping it out, but I know we ended up with a special condition for some signage in the pump house area, kind of listing what the requirements were as far as pumping. I don't know if that would be this would be another project where that might be valuable, potentially for a future owner or someone that might not read the order of conditions for this project. That was really my only other thought.
All right, thanks. Any comments from commission members? Questions?
Yeah, Melissa, could you just pan around? I just wanted to make sure that there is in fact, a detail of the infiltration trench. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. And then the removal of the driveway area, is that exactly to the bounds of the fence on the left-hand side as we look at it here of the area surrounding the pool? Yeah. So it says driveway to be removed. Is that exactly to the line of the fence, or?
Yeah, so right up to the fence will become lawn. And then outside of that fence where it says gravel driveway, that'll just remain gravel driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Matt or Melissa, I had a question. DEP's comments were that we should review this in the field. Any idea why they tagged that?
That seems to be a common comment that they're making.
Oh,
I
you
don't
see
think
that?
it was. I don't think that was necessarily called out specifically for this project. We've seen that on others come up recently. I think
Yeah.
maybe it's something so they don't say nothing.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that in Westboro, so okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it's when Janice issues the number, that's usually one of the comments she makes.
Oh, okay.
In COVID times, they want to make sure we get out there. I don't know. That's probably right. Any other questions, comments? Is the plan stamped?
I believe it's stamped. Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. Anything outstanding, Melissa, with this?
Not on my end. Just public comment, and if there's nothing else from the commissioners, that'd be it.
Did we decide we did want to condition having some kind of signage around the fact that it is the water is to be removed as opposed to dumped locally?
We can do that when we issue the order.
Okay.
You know, that we can do that, and we can also, I think you're referring to, let's see, they got to replace the liner. What do they do with all the water? They need to take it off site, as the applicant has told us. The other one is they need to do filter maintenance on a regular basis. What do you do with that water, right? And then we maybe some signage in the pool house to tell them that, you know, put that in the swale. We can condition that as part of the order. Any public comment on this one? Any hands raised?
None that I see. If anyone wants to comment, please use the raise hand feature. Nope.
Okay, I think we can probably close this hearing at this point. Your motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Masamoto.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Okay, next we have 96 Mount Vickery Road, ANRAD. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Master Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, November 12, 2020 at 7:20 p.m., a little bit later than that, by a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for a project located at 96 Mount Vickery Road, map 20, lot 18. The applicant Bartolini Builders. The project description is confirmation of resource area boundaries.
Excuse me.
So I think where we left off with this was we had a plan that wasn't signed, and we had a couple of wetland flags that needed to be agreed upon between the applicant's engineering firm Goddard Consulting and Lucas Environmental.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Hayes. I'm with Goddard Consulting here for the applicant. I'd like to give you an update on what has happened since the last hearing. Matt Varrell went out to the site and put some new flags into the field, specifically LE6R and LE14R. Goddard Consulting went back out to the site, inspected these two flags, came back with another two areas to have Matt look at. He went back out into the field, agreed to those two flags. Specifically, it would be GC6A and GC14A. And I can point those out to you, or the person in charge of the screen can. So Matt and Goddard Consulting agreed upon those two flags in the field, and also some more flags were extended the wetland line to the southern property line, specifically new flags AA1 through 3 and GC 46 through 48.
Give me a second here while my eyes focus and I get a headache. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
Yep, so right here, GC6A is at the top of the screen. Yep. So that was also agreed upon by Matt Varrell. And then also 14A, yep, down here. So those two flags were negotiated in the field.
And you mentioned something about the southern section of the lot or something?
Yes. In the first delineation didn't go exactly to the property boundary in this area. And it was asked by the commission or Mr. Varro that the wetland delineation be extended to the property line. So during that negotiation of those two wetland flags, the line was extended to the southern property line. And the plan is signed and stamped.
All right, thank you. Matt from Lucas Environmental, any comments?
No, I think Nicole covered it. There was a little bit of back and forth between myself and Mr. Goddard to get it squared away, but we got it squared away. So I think this plan accurately reflects the agreed upon line. My only comment though on this most revised plan, which came in late today, Melissa, can you go back up to the top up near Mount Vickery Road? So I don't know what happened. The previous plans actually showed the house and some other outbuildings and things. And this plan, it seems like there's some sort of, I don't know, drafting error or something has gone on where the house has sort of partially disappeared. So I just don't know if the commission wants to have all the detail as far as the actual existing conditions accurately portrayed, if this is to be the plan of record. But as far as the wetland boundary, it's all set.
I mean, we're most concerned about the wetland boundary. I think the house is going to be torn down.
That's correct.
So it probably should have been torn down years ago, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, it's.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's, if it's a matter of, if they're going to build something in there accurately reflecting what the existing disturbed conditions are on the site. That was my only thought.
I mean, from my perspective, this is an ANRAD. We're agreeing on the wetland resource area. I'm not concerned about buildings and outbuildings, personally. Any other comments from commission members? No? Okay, any public comment?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay. To that end, I think we can close the hearing. We've got an agreement between the applicant and our environmental consultant. Do we hear a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Hasmato.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right, great, thanks.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
You too.
Okay, next up is this is the Bigelow Road Eagle Scout project, and I have a note that it's being continued.
No, that was the last one. The next hearing's being continued.
Mark?
oh,
On
Oh, I might have not deleted that from the last one, but no, they are here and ready to.
oh, okay. Then I may have not been prepared for this. Just to let everybody know, because I said it continued. Okay, we'll
Mark,
move forward.
I signed the petition, so I think I have to recuse myself.
I saw that, and you do.
Melissa, do you want to bump me out or you want me to just turn off my screen?
You can listen.
Okay, I'm just gonna shut up.
You can listen like a resident, right?
Yeah. So if you want to speak at any point, just raise your hand and I'll do the same.
Yeah, you can now make public comment.
I will.
So I will move up. Robbie.
I need to read it.
Yep. I'm talking to myself.
In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, November 12th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. by a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for project located at Bigelow Road, map 49, lot 19, for the applicant Robert Stewart. The project description is construction of a gravel trail and viewing platform for Solf.
All right. So since last time, we've gone back out to the site again. We've done more detailed site plans for you guys. Melissa, you may not have gotten this yet because I know I sent it really, really late. I apologize for that.
I'm bringing it up now. Just give me 2 seconds.
All right, because I sent over the 2 new site plans and the ongoing Google Doc that has all of the information for the project kind of compiled into it. Over to you. So this is one of the new site plans we came up with. I also made another one that's basically exactly identical to this, just without the Google Map overlay in the background, just because it's a little bit less confusing for the map that we want to eventually file. So when we went out there again, we decided rather than trying to use just compass headings from the like up along the road next to the Memorial Rock, we used landmarks down near the actual wetland that you can see, such as a red maple tree, a fallen ash, and on 44's property there is a like hoop storage shed that you guys can see. It's that orange building down there. And we determined the location of that from the GIS map and used that as one of the landmarks as well. And we figured out that our trail may have been too close and or on 42's property, which I know was a concern of people before. So we have fixed that, and we have moved the trail and the platform over. This A means that it's 100% on our property. B, we no longer have to travel out to the island. So we no longer have to build the bridge, and less of the trail is going to be located within the wetland boundary. So that's a good thing as well. And yeah, that's the site plan. As of right now, just kind of as a heads up, we do plan on finishing the town paperwork for the unrelated section of the trail to you guys, the upper portion that's above the 20-foot line, and hopefully get started working on that this fall. And then of course we'll see where this goes with the bottom section, but
Okay, any questions, comments from commission members?
Yeah, Robbie, I guess I have a question. So, I mean, I went out and visited the site actually before the last meeting. So when would that have been? Middle of October. And one of the things that struck me as I walked down, I guess not the trail, but the trail, what looked like the trail kind of trajectory, is that there were certainly a couple of points as you get closer to the wetland where it appeared that what looked like a fairly narrow trail then opened up, and you know there were from my perspective there were distinct clearings on either side of the trail, which I'm guessing by the way that the boundaries are shown, the property boundaries are shown on this map, would suggest that those clearings are actually in the abutter's property. So how do you anticipate, you know, stopping people going off the trail by mistake into someone else's property?
so the trail is going to be lined all the way down with gravel. More so up in the areas that are heavily vegetated, but we are going to have gravel on the entire trail, like is stated in the plan. That way people know exactly where the trail is. We also, as is typical of solved properties, we have signage at the top. And we'll probably include a map of the property with that signage, so they know exactly what the trail is. Obviously, we don't have anyone stationed there keeping anyone from going off the trail, but I think the trail is going to be very, very obvious as to where it goes.
Anything more, Judith?
No, sorry, I thought Robbie seemed to stop mid-sentence. I don't know if he's gone on mute accidentally or if that's the end of his on the end of his comments.
I know that was the end.
Robbie, were you in mid-sentence when you went on mute, or was that the?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. No, okay, that's
Okay. Anybody else?
I have some questions if you.
Yep, go ahead, Carl.
Okay, I went out to the site to look at it. And so based on what you said, have you decided to move where the platform is going to be?
Yes. When you went to the site, have you seen there's kind of like a small inlet between where the platform was probably marked at when you went out, and a gray research box for the research project going on down there?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So now, to make sure that it's like absolutely on our property, that platform will be moved right on the right of that pond, because we don't want any sort of confusion putting it on the left over on the island where we had it.
All right. So you've shifted it to the side. You haven't pulled it back, right? Is that correct?
We haven't moved it back by much now.
Okay. Yeah, because when I went out there, right, and I had to go back with my tape measure because I found wetland flag number 4, right, which seemed to be the closest one to the unit. I measured from where the 20-foot no touch would probably start, and then out to your platform, and I found it was like 70 feet to get out there. It's quite a stretch, so that's a fairly large intrusion, right? So based on that much of an intrusion, we've been talking about you're going to mitigate that by removing invasives. Is that correct?
Yes. The invasive mitigation plan is in the Google Doc with everything else, if you guys have that. Basically, there are a couple tangles of bittersweet all the way down. I'm sure you noticed it. There's like these big clumps of vines. Yep. So we plan on removing those. And also up near the top, we measured it out. There's 967 square feet of Japanese knotweed up at the top, which is also an invasive that we plan on removing. As far as yearly, like a yearly plan for making sure there's no regrowth, which I know was mentioned in the last meeting, we have talked to Troop 1, and they are willing to, as needed, of course, come out to the project site and clear the path.
So I'd like to chime in really quick just to back up. We submitted, this is Lawrence Pisano from Open Land Foundation. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we submitted a invasive species control management plan for the plants. We also submitted relative abundances of each of the 4 species that were present in the area, including the bittersweet that Robbie mentioned, as well as minor occurrences of multiflora rose and Japanese knotweed. So we have an inclusion of a plan that sort of roughly parallels the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers plan and outline as far as how we can identify relative abundance, how we can maintain it, we can keep track, and have a strong measurement of control and remediation as needed. So it's pretty well detailed. If you want, I can go into detail on each of the particular species and strategies, but the document should be with you all, submitted before the last meeting would have been attended. I'm not sure how much detail you would like on that, but I can certainly talk to that if you need to.
Oh yeah, I saw this earlier. Yeah.
Carl, just to address the wetland impact, by moving the platform to what will be actually the edge of higher ground and the open water, there will not need to be, there won't need to be any boardwalk sections put in. So it's a big reduction on any wetland impact.
I'm sorry, who's speaking, please?
Whitney Beals. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. It'll be a much lower impact on the wetland resource area by doing that, because it is, pretty, yes, it's within the buffer zone, but there's no standing water there now. And since I visited the site this afternoon, came away with over a dozen tiny little deer ticks on my trousers. Thank you very much. But it's a much lower impact with moving that platform site off of that island. We don't have to cross any water at all. And it also provides a much better viewing of that major open wetland, because you avoid staring at a great big root ball that's was pretty much in front of the former platform site. That actually was quite a view obstacle.
Now, for clarity, because I'm sure the Conservation Commission doesn't want to get into a tangle with the Southborough Open Land Foundation about the invasive removals. Do you show on the plan anywhere where the invasives are going to be removed? Because there's invasives all the way up and down it's an amazing tangle getting in and out of there. So
it is. There'll have to be quite a bit of clearing of the bittersweet vines, and I think that's a matter of cutting them at the base and cutting them partway up so that people aren't bumping into them. And the other obstacle to easy access is there's quite a bit of bush honeysuckle down there, Lonicera, which will have to be removed as well. But other than that, and then there's a knotweed up at the top, which is quite a thicket when it's when it's in full growth in the summertime. But the scouts are going to take care of all those if you take a look at the remediation plan.
Yeah, the question I'd have is, you seem to be flanked on either side with invasives too. I mean, on the adjacent properties. That's going to make winning this battle against these invasives rather difficult, is it?
Oh yeah, I consider invasives control all a matter of getting to a point where they're not overwhelming. Because yes, the seed sources are everywhere. The birds carry the seeds in, and neighboring properties are also a problem. But it's just something, if you keep up with it, it doesn't get out of hand again.
Also, to answer your question about the locations of the invasives that we'll be removing, in the Google document, under the removal of invasives plant section, document A is a map I've created that marks out all the major bittersweet tangles and loosely circles the Japanese knotweed section, which I'm sure you've seen. It doesn't mark out all of the invasive plants because obviously there's a lot of them, but all the major clearing that we'll need to do is on there.
Right. There was, I noticed there was a note from one of the abutters about a well, and I don't know, have you, and the use of herbicides within, I think they said 50 feet. I'm not familiar with this. This is really a Board of Health issue probably, right? Is that, have you investigated that? Is that a reasonable, I don't know where the well is, you know, so.
We're not actually planning on using herbicides for this project. First of all, the scouts aren't allowed to use herbicides. They're also not allowed to use power tools. Only the adults are. So all of this is going to be done mechanical clearing, except for probably some of the knotweed, which is going to be cleared with a weed whacker or something by one of the adults.
All right, moving on. The DEP made a note on their filing number that they recommended that you not use pressure treated, that was good, treated wood. Are you still planning to do that?
I hadn't seen that note. I can look into that.
Yeah, it was
I was still planning on using pressure treated wood.
Yeah, it was at the bottom of there when they issued the file number. There was a recommendation at the bottom that said, you know, that they recommended. They didn't demand. They just recommended that you not use pressure treated wood because it is a sensitive area. You know, it's a biologically sensitive.
And Carl, I just wanted to add in, as far as the use of herbicides, it's really more of we have a guideline plan and recommendation that we're putting together for the plant species control, but we're going to do, due diligence to make sure that the use is responsible and follows guidelines as proposed by you or other institutions. We'll certainly be responsible with that. It's not a traditional use, but it's just more of a documented, set of recommendations that I'm using as a guideline.
This is just a general question, really doesn't have. Did you guys look on Google Earth at the history of this place? Because all those fallen, all those dead trees out there, about 10 years ago, they were all very much alive. That was, I'm just concerned that you're going to build your platform and the beavers are going to move on, because I think this is a result of the beavers, that the beavers are going to move on, because they do, they come and go. And then you'll be looking at a bunch of trees again. This seems like to be an environment in flux, So, I mean, you can build your platform if you want. I mean, that's not my concern, but it seems that it might not serve the purpose that you wish it is going to serve. So that's just an observation. But you should look at that. Do you know how to do that on Google Earth?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Even just looking at the Mass GIS, I think they have a map from 2002, 2008, and 2011 on there, or something along that.
Yeah, there's one 2007 to 2010 on Google Earth really shows it looks like a forest,
Yeah.
because the trees are gone. Even though it may be a wetland, it looks like a forest, So, anyways, that's
definitely changed a lot down there. I think the other thing with that though is there's always more Eagle Scouts. And we've definitely had more. We've had a lot of joint Eagle Scout projects.
Yeah.
So if the landscape out there does drastically change, it's completely within the realm of possibility that another Eagle Scout can come in and add to it or detract, depending on what the beavers are up to.
Yeah.
Anything else, Carl?
Cool. Nope, that's I'm done. Thank you for answering my questions.
Okay, any other board members?
Just to confirm the point about the well, because that was definitely a new point on the latest letter. It said in the letter that in the invasive species plan that herbicides were referenced. Presuming that is what it says in the plan, can there be verbiage there that does say it won't be done within X feet of any wells, just to make sure that that's the case?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Or not done at all.
Yeah, and I think I made a statement towards the end of the plan that said, under the guidance and further investigation of use. So it's not, we don't traditionally use herbicides like triclopyr or anything like that. So we just wanted to make sure we had a plan in place and did research just to make sure we understood all of our options. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Pete?
Nope.
Anybody else on the commission?
So, has anyone actually looked up recently? There's so much tree work to be done in this area. I'm still scared of it. I don't like that other than our 100 feet of oversight, there is no other oversight at this point.
Your point being that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction and oversight for the 100
Wetland.
feet that's closest to the wetlands, and then the rest of it is,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
yeah. So from my perspective, I've got a few things. One is for a notice of intent, we need to have a registered engineer's signature and stamp on a plan. Is this project going to have that?
I was not under the impression that you needed that.
That's required.
This is Whitney Beals again. Mark?
Yes.
I believe that it's a requirement that can be waived. Your consultant read you the provisions in the DEP regulations that cite that in fact it can be waived. My impression leaving the last meeting was that you were inclined to do that waiver, because when Melissa got back to us with her list of things that were needed to complete the application, getting a stamped survey plan was not among them.
Well, I didn't use the word survey. I used the word a certified engineer, a professional engineer, signing the plan. And what he requires to do that, I guess, is within his expertise, to use a stamp and sign it. And the reason why I bring that up is it dawned on me over the last meeting and an earlier meeting today that we were going to hold up we actually did hold up another project because the plan was not stamped. And that got me thinking about the sheer fact that I don't ever remember this commission, since I've been on it, registering a NOI or an ANRAD or something like that with a plan that was not stamped by a professional engineer. It's always been something that we have required. I understand what Lucas Environmental read in terms of the act, that it may be subject to some level of interpretation, but it's not one that, at least as far as I've been on this board, have utilized or invoked. That's one point. The other point is looking at the amount of invasive down there and the difficulty it is in removing it. If we have some sort of violation within the 100-foot buffer that we have jurisdiction over, whose throat is it that we have to choke? Is it SOLF? Is it Robbie Stewart and his Eagle Scouts and extended Eagle and Scouts helping him, which I don't think would be it. But one of the things that the board has as a tool when things go awry is enforcements. And I'm not sure how we would do that in this case of having a notice of intent that's been filed, a order of conditions that's being executed on, and something happens. Who knows what happens, but things do happen. What would we do from a commission in terms of enforcement? I'm a little bit of a loss there.
Well, this is Whitney again. Well, setting aside your rather harsh language about being choked.
Didn't mean it to be harsh, Whitley. That's just something I use in the industry.
I realize that. But it would be the landowner. It would be the South Broken Land Foundation. It would be responsible for any wetland violation, certainly.
So if for some reason, the project, for who knows, things happen that, halfway through the invasive removals or something, the project fell apart, for example, the commission can then go to SOLF and say, hey, look, you signed up for this, you got to finish the job.
Yes.
Mark, could I speak relative to the stamping by an engineer?
Yes.
I believe the last Eagle Scout project that we approved was the walkway at the DCR field on Middle Road, and we didn't have a stamped plan on that. I believe that was a notice of intent.
Was it an NOI?
Yeah, it was. It was. And then speaking as a civil engineer, in this case, there's no infrastructure here that requires design or calculation, that can only be achieved by an engineer. We're talking about the construction of a wooden platform that, hopefully pursuant to DEP's comments, we may even see made out of perhaps cedar as opposed to pressure treated. Well, for my part, I would feel comfortable approving the waiver for a stamped plan. I don't want to see that used as a barrier to prevent a project, when we're not getting really any benefit from having it done. Just my opinion.
Can I comment as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
Melissa was nice enough to post a bunch of documents from previous Eagle Scout projects. And I clicked through a bunch of them, not to say that I read them all. I did not see really in, I don't know what, 7 or so projects. I didn't think I saw but one plan that had a stamp on it. And it wasn't clear that the stamp was actually for the project. It kind of looked like maybe the stamp was there and then they put some pictures on top of what was a previous document. So I don't know, Melissa, when you were looking through all that,
so the Middle Road bridge does have a land surveyor stamp on it. That is one of the ones that I uploaded. Other ones that I found were kind of more towards what Robbie was doing for trail work. There was one at like Templeman Woods and the town forest that were kind of older. But the main notice of intent one was the Middle Road bridge, and that is a little bit, I guess more intensive than this one, and that has a land surveyor stamp on it, versus like a professional engineering stamp.
Melissa, is that one was an NOI? I mean, I'm going by memory. I don't have the list in front of me, but I think most of the other ones with respect to the town forest trail work and with trail work that was off of Route 85 by the Mass Pike Bridge and bat boxes and so forth. I don't think there were NOIs associated with those, were there?
There were definitely RDAs and determinations issued,
yes,
but I don't think there was an NOI. You're correct.
Yeah. But so were there negatives on the RDAs? Because it seems like they were as much in the wetland or more than these.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were negative.
Okay.
They were
based on the impact of what they were proposing to do.
Everything, in my opinion, those early projects that I was involved with were all upgrades to the wetlands. There was already a trail going through the wetland.
Oh, okay.
And we built a bridge, or the Scouts built a bridge to keep the people out of the water, essentially. And I can't view this in the same. So some of the things we might have given a little bit more of a pass to, I think, are more in play here.
Although I did just pull up one of the Templeman Woods, it looked like that one was an NOI, and this looked like was kind of the plan that they used, or at least the only one that I could find in my files, you know, which is very rudimentary, but. So that's kind of in line with what then Robbie is proposing.
In fact, I think, Whitney, again, I think the Templeton Woods project involved a lot more placement of man-made materials within the wetland resource area than Robbie's project does.
And I believe to Whit's point, this was also creating access points that were not previously there as well, from what I could kind of piece together between, I think it was separated in between two Eagle projects, but both of them received either this, the first part received an order of conditions and the second one received a determination, negative determination.
Okay. Other questions, comments from the commission?
Actually, Mark, if you mind, I think what Whit was talking about when the commission was discussing at the last meeting about what they wanted to see on a plan, you know, I think you guys were going back and forth in discussing what type of, you know, specifics you needed. And I think what really hit home was that you guys wanted the wetland flags put on the plan, you know, with that 20-foot and how that trail was going to relate to those wetland flags, which I think, you know, Carl was kind of getting to before, and that it's difficult to really determine kind of where these are in relation to the actual flags that were put down and in the field. So that's kind of where the commission was going last time. And if they had a little bit more information, you know, I think there was a discussion if in regards of the stamp.
Do we not have a plan that shows that?
So this is what Robbie had just submitted, these two. So it has still the Mass GIS, but they don't have the flags that Matt went out to review.
But the wetland, Melissa, Whitney again, the wetland boundary is shown, and the flags are not numbered on this depiction, but that wetland flagging line is shown in red.
And was that with actual coordinates taken, or is that just an approximation?
Well, it was measured off from the street.
From the street or the wetland?
Well, the wetland boundary is actually very difficult to determine down there, Mark. I think we mentioned that at a previous meeting. Our consultant who went out there said he could spend over a day trying to pinpoint the actual wetland line because of it's a highly altered site due to filling that was placed there, you know, decades ago. So it's really, really difficult to determine. But Matt, your consultant, did go out there and he verified the red line that's not shown on this plan.
As to how we actually found that red line, I might be able to speak to that a little bit better. When Jesse went out there to take the original measurements for this map you see here, he measured using the GPS coordinates A, but those sometimes aren't the most accurate. So he also measured off of a couple of landmarks, including a red maple tree crown, a fallen ash tree, and that hoop shed, as I mentioned earlier. And using a compass and a really, really long tape measure, figured out the relative locations of all of the flags. So although they may not be pinpoint accurate, that line is fairly accurate for where that upper wetland line is. And we also went with all of the more conservative flags placed by Matt.
Matt Verrill from Lucas Environmental. How would you consult this commission in considering that wetland line?
So, Robbie, you're saying that it was basically measured from points on the street by pulling a tape from the street?
No, there's 2 different trees that can be seen from the GIS maps, and we know their locations from aerial photos, as well as that hoop shed that you can see in that photo on the back of 44's property. And we use those 3 landmarks to more or less triangulate the location of the platform and the flags.
Okay. I mean, I guess it really comes down to sort of the scope of the project, whether, you know, if the wetland line were off by 5 feet or even 10 feet in either direction, how much would that impact your approval or disapproval of this project? Either way, there's, you know, a trail that's going into the wetland and a platform is being built in the wetland. I don't think that's going to change, you know, if that wetland boundary were not exactly located, you know, as it might be by a professional survey. So I don't know that you know, it's more of we put the flags in the field so that if, to your point, Mark, if something did go wrong, and we need to determine impacts, there's flags up to know, okay, what happened actually in the wetland, what happened in the 20-foot buffer zone, what happened in the 100-foot buffer zone. But beyond that, I don't know if the actual location as shown on a plan makes a huge difference, other than sort of, you know, precedent setting situations. But again, this is a scout project building a trail and a platform. So I think this plan is probably sufficient in my mind.
Yeah, I guess, you know, where my concern is exactly where you went there, and I was going to mention that, is, you know, setting any sort of precedent associated with an NOI filing. You know, that, you know,
Overall, we're fairly confident that all markings on this map are within 5 feet of their actual location.
yeah, I hear you. I'm just, you know, thinking about, you know, the homeowner that wants to put a shed in his backyard, and hey, you know, you lit the Eagle Scout project down on Bigelow Road, do it this way. Why can't I? I don't want to spend the money on the engineer. You know, I'm close enough. I don't have to really determine where that wetland line actually is. You know, I start to worry about that.
Is that a real, I guess I'm, you know, obviously I don't have anywhere near as much time on the commission as some of the other members, but I mean, it seems like an Eagle project, you know, to do something to access nature is fundamentally different than anything done on private property. And it's also unclear, given what Melissa just showed us, that there would be any new precedent. But maybe I don't understand something.
So,
Mark,
I am clearly in favor of Eagle projects. I think they're terrific. I think this one is biting off way, way too much personally. It's something that I think is taking on a lot. And I think there are you know, a number of issues here associated with the neighborhood and the environment and things that we have to take into consideration with this particular one.
I'd like to speak with regards to the setting of a precedent. I'm sorry. Can folks hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. With regards to the setting of a precedent, we protect ourselves from setting a precedent by acknowledging in the granting of waivers that we're doing it because of the provision of mitigation, in this case, in the form of invasives management. We've done that on a number of other projects through the years. You know, we approve a waiver that we'd otherwise be hesitant to approve because there's mitigation that offsets it.
Whitney, again, if I can add a comment directed to the commission, but more specifically maybe to Mark. Mark, this is a de minimis impact on an enormous wetland resource area. That is a huge swamp that's turned into a marsh because of the beaver activity. And we're talking about, just somewhere, probably 6 or 8 decimal points to the right of the zero, or zeros to the right of the decimal point, in terms of, the square footage of that whole wetland resource area. And I think many of the projects you're dealing with, are discrete, smaller wetland resources area, flowing streams and things like that. So it's really a very different type of project in terms of what might, what's happening out there. I mean, that wetland, I don't know if it's 100 acres or not, but it's huge. It stretches all the way over to the homes behind West Main Street at the Westboro boundary.
Also, to kind of add to that, I know the square footage numbers we have in there for mitigation may not seem like all that much, but the bittersweet vines do reach up into all of those surrounding trees. So by clearing what we're clearing, that small strip where that trail is would be sacrificed, so to speak, but all of the surrounding woodland in that area would be cleared of the bittersweet, which is really just taken over down there.
Okay, let's open up to the public. I think that all the commission members have had their comments and questions asked and answered at this point. Any raised hands?
Yes. there's
Really?
one-
I'm surprised.
First one I saw was Donna Sergi, so I'm gonna allow her to talk.
Hello, this is Donna Sergi and my husband Rob at 42. And Rob, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions regarding the invasive plant management and the markings you have down there. So out back of our house, there are some trees that are marked with red and blue tape. Are you calling those the boundaries of the project?
No, those are the wetland boundaries as marked out by our surveyor and Matt.
Okay.
Those also aren't limited entirely to our property. They may stretch over bounds, but it's just marking out the entirety of the wetland down there.
$5.
Okay, with that being said, I was reading, I think it was back after September meeting, the commission asked you for what your plan was for the invasive species. And I think it was around October 3rd, you submitted some documents. And reading through these, I know earlier in the meeting you said you weren't going to use any herbicides. I will tell you that I really would like to push for a certified survey because our well is right there. Reading through your documents, it states that herbicides are going to be used. It states that there are plans to have people maintain, 2 to 3 times a year, monitoring every 3 to 4 weeks, March through November. So I'd like to know who's going to do that. And mostly my concern is the herbicides near the well. And when you do remove these trees and vines, where are you going to dispose of them?
Ms. Sergi, I can speak to that. That's a great question. So we did address the herbicide use, and I think we've resolved that in the sense that we will be doing research into the well activity and severely minimizing the use of triclopyr or anything like that. So that I think,
I heard there'd be no herbicide.
No use.
No use.
No use.
Right.
No use. Please get
Thank
that
you.
right.
Thank you so much. So we've addressed that. As far as the removal, they will be dried and they will be discarded in a responsible way. So they won't be discarded in any sort of way that would incur risk to the destination site.
Okay, so if you're not using any herbicides or you were limiting them, why was it submitted that you were going to be using them on a document that's just about a month old?
So that's a great question too. So as I said before, this was a guidelines proposed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It was one that we used as a guide and sort of a general outline to the potential plan for use. But at the end of the document, I stated that the use of herbicides would be under the advisement of the Conservation Commission and other organizations. And it was really more just a scope document suggesting the relative abundance of what invasives were on the property, as well as some ecological impact of the invasives. So in other words, if we remove the invasives, how that could improve the area, as well as some suggestions on how it could be removed in inclusion of the herbicide. But like we said before, it will not be used in the area because of the proximity of the wetlands and the wells. That's
Also,
a great
to
point.
add on to that, we'd talked since that document was written, and the scouts aren't actually allowed to use any sort of herbicides or potentially harmful chemicals as part of an Eagle project, as part of scout rules. So we physically can't use herbicides as part of this project. I'm sorry that didn't get updated, and there's some confusion there, but just absolutely clear.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. And I am in possession. I'm the one who wrote the guidance document and did the research to put together the plan. And I'm hearing the feedback, and I'm certainly going to edit it right after this meeting.
Okay, and then I had one other question. Why are you bringing gravel in and not leaving it a natural trail like the rest of the trails in this area?
There's a lot of weeds that need to be suppressed in there. Obviously, up near the top, there's all that pokeweed, which pokeweed is very, very difficult to kill. It just keeps coming back and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And also the gravel is being added further down the trail to mark out the trail, provide a clear understanding as to where the trail is so that we don't have any sort of trespassing or people wandering from the trail.
Hey, and also it's Rob Sergi, and also another point on the trail. Has anybody taken consideration, and I thought about it after the last, and I should have brought it up earlier, the spotted salamanders that live, as well as the turtles that are down there? Have anybody taken consideration disturbing the habitat in that sense?
That's a great question too. So
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
No problem. So I am trained in herpetology. I have a master's degree in that field, and I'm aware of the distribution of species that are in some of our properties. And that's one of the reasons why we have volunteers and undergraduates come in under my guidance to carry out research. And Mr. Geyer can attest to some of the research we've done. He's helped us at Beals Preserve. And so, yeah, we are aware of the habitat distributions in our properties and some of the means we have to go to be responsible in our use and aware of what species are in the area. We're always open, and I don't know if it's the right forum, but we're always open for evidence, anecdotal observations, or any documents by anyone in the area, including the abutters, on what's in the area. And I'd love if you could share with me any observations and photos you have of those critters so we can add them to our records.
Yeah, but okay, but is that answering my question though?
I did. What can you maybe clarify your question, and I'll make sure.
So if it's about the habitat, and that's one reason why my father-in-law gave this land many years ago, is so it won't be disturbed. Now we're going in there, you're going to disturb it, as well as put a physical structure out there as well. So I just don't understand it. Number one, I thought about it after. I should have brought it up in the first place, because I see the turtles, I see the salamanders in my backyard, on my driveway. I have an actual film of it. I have a video of it if you want me to show it to you. So I had concerns about that, as well as the rabbits that are there, as well as there's a bobcat family that's out there. So there's a lot of things out there that,
Sure.
that you guys are going to disturb. And I more thought about it. That's wrong, number one. And in number two, you actually validated my concern when you said you had the trail originally, or the platform originally, to the left, which was on my land, which I knew that. And that's my point, where I think Mark brought it up and some other folks saying that's why you need a certified survey to make sure you got the lot lines correct. And then secondly, Judith brought it up as well. My lot line in 40 and 44 is so close. Folks, if you open this up, folks are going to end up walking into my lot or into 44s adjacent. And when, right now in the fall, it's open, but in the summer, when there's full foliage in there and full trees of all leaves on there, you can't see. And I don't want strangers in the back of my yard looking up into my yard, and I'm sure my neighbors do not want the same. And I understand that once you're gone, and you said there's another troop that come around, or another Eagle Scout, my concern is that, what happens when you do leave? Who's going to upkeep this? And what happens if you extend the trail around my house or farther down? That's the concerns we have. And that's just the concerns in down there. Now, we have also concerns, the neighborhood as well, not just the abutters, but the neighbors with the traffic. And again, I know the Conservation Committee does not have really say in when you go up or close to the street, I believe, right? 100 yards to the feet, or 100 feet to the street. So that's when we have to get the selectmen involved. And I truly believe in one thing, and again, I don't know if the Conservation can take this back. We've contacted selectmen. We have a petition about the traffic and the parking that's proposed with this project as well, which is opposed by not just the abutters, but also by the neighborhood. We have a petition with the neighbors that have signed it, and we have passed it on to selectmen. We need selectmen to guide this project. It's not an easy project, and Robbie, I commend you, but it's not easy. And I believe that there's other ways you can go open land somewhere else in Southborough, which is not as time consuming and in depth as this, that you could do it. I just think that we still need some guidance from the selectmen, because there's a lot going on. I mean, we're only talking about the bottom piece where the Conservation Committee has jurisdiction over, but really we're talking about parking, we're talking about more traffic on the street, and safety. I'll also bring up a point that happened today. And again, we live up here, so we have to bring this up. A bus came by, and we talked about the traffic and the increased traffic and parking that's being around here, especially with the hunting that's opened up in the MDC land across the street. There's a car parked in the area where we already brought up, where it is used by the town for the school buses to turn around. Today, a school bus came up and could not. It was beeping the horn because there was a car or a truck parked there. I don't know if it was someone walking or someone a hunter, whatever, but it ended up meaning the poor woman couldn't turn the bus around. And I believe my next door neighbor, Cynthia Cram, had to come out to help the woman and ask her to turn in the driveway. I actually filmed it just to show you what the situation we are here. And I think Cindy can attest to it. I also sent it to Melissa, and she can play it if you'd like. But this is the concerns that we have. I know I'm rambling, but there's a lot to this. It's not just going conservation, but it's also up above where the traffic is and where the neighborhood's affected as well. And I'll say this: I am open land conscious. Believe me, I'm a fisherman, a hunter, so I know. But this situation is just not good where we are right now with the abutters in this neighborhood and putting this project down there. Not with parking and not with any building any structures on land. I'm sorry I rambled, but I just want to get everything out.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Mr.
that's all right. You do raise a lot of legitimate concerns there. And we're working to try to figure out some of those concerns with this project. I think the addition of the parking lot, which, by the way, we are going to town for guidance on, because I understand from the letter you guys wrote, which was helpful, thank you for that, that we do need to go and get further permission for the creation of the parking lot driveway situation. But that parking lot would allow for more legal parking to hopefully ease up on the use of the little bus turnaround across the street there. Also, a property like this, it isn't very big. It isn't going to be attracting too terribly much traffic. And most of the people going there are probably going to just be, observing the wildlife and then leaving. They're not going to be, there's no real reason to stand on a platform for that long. So most of the traffic is going to be moving through there. So as far as, loitering, which you'd brought up in a other meeting, or like a lot of traffic and a lot of cars parked down there, I don't think we're going to have too big of a pile up of people going to the project just because it's such a small, secluded property. I do hear your concerns though. Yeah.
Thanks, Robbie. And
Again,
thank you,
if
Mr.
the-
Sergi.
if there's a problem with that school bus turnaround being blocked, and I was there this afternoon too. I actually pulled over in front of the rock with the memorial plaque on it because there was somebody parked right in the middle of that school bus turnaround area. It's a simple matter of putting up a sign over there. The town should put up a sign. Do not block bus access. That's pretty simple.
Thanks, Whit. Mrs. Sergi, I do want to invite you. I gave your wife my contact information and email. If you want to talk more about salamanders and frogs and how we can, how things like a paved driveway or our trail or things like that can impact their ecology, there's certainly things we can talk about if you'd like. I'd love to see pictures that you have and video and things like that. So just maybe this is beyond the form of this conversation, but I'm willing to talk more about it. If you want to meet, we can go over some of the ecosystems or what critters we're seeing in our neck of the woods.
Hi, Larry. I never got that information. And I believe 2 meetings ago, we were asked to give our contact information to Melissa, and still we have not heard from anyone.
So I'm sorry,
That's
Donna.
fine.
So really quick. So please, Lawrence, if you could call me Lawrence. My dad's Larry. But Donna, if I believe I met you when we were cutting back some of the vines, and I think you came over and I gave you my cell phone, unless there was another abutter.
It was probably a
I believe
neighbor.
that was Mrs. Cram.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you, Robbie. I can put my contact information or email in the chat. Do we have a chat in this? Yeah. I'll put that in.
Hey, it's Rob Sergi again. Hey, Whitney, I just want to bring that up. I understand I can put a sign up, but the point is, there's just this is a small street, and you know the street, right? You've been here for years, so it's not made for all this traffic. And even if people coming in the park in there, that's my point. Is it's just not that whole area where we are at the end. It's a dead end road. It's so people come in, turn around, so you can have more vehicles. I don't want more vehicles here. I want less vehicles if possible. So that's the point. And don't get me wrong. I understand. I love open land. I take advantage of it. But in this situation, this area is not open land. It's by far being open land. So that's my point. And I'm not the only one that feels this way up on Bigelow Road. And there's other neighbors that feel the same way. So just keep that intent. And we're taxpayers too. So I want to make sure people understand that. We're taxpayers of Southborough. So we have the right in the Go Hall to make sure that we have our community is safe and maintained, and make sure there's no chance for any accidents or anything that could happen. So I just want to make sure.
Let me just.
So listen, I need to cut this off because we're talking about roads and parking, and that's not the Conservation Commission's purview.
Right.
And I understand that there's a petition that's been generated by the neighbors, and it's been received by Town Hall. I'm not aware of what the next steps with that are going to be with respect to town government. I'd be interested to learn that as we go forward. I would like to ask the question of whether or not this project, the Scout project, is still viable without the parking. right? Just by making the trail down there, cleaning out the invasives, and with the sheer responsibility what the Conservation Commission is here to uphold, and the Wetlands Protection Act and Southborough Town Bylaw and so forth. Parking is just not our thing.
Right. I understand, Mark. Thank you so much. And I'm under the understanding that it would be, but this is certainly something we could talk to more with the board. I don't, again, to Robbie's point, the traffic with the added traffic with the path would be extremely minimal. Minimal.
Well, that's an assumption, right?
Right.
That's an assumption. I mean,
I
depending
understand,
on how
but-
this comes out, it might be one of the best attractions in town. Who knows?
Thank you. And Robbie, I'm sure will take that compliment as well. But it is a great resource, and it is a beautiful wetland, which is why we do want to open some access to it so that folks can see and learn about the resource and understand why it's an important one to protect, as you all are doing such a great job to doing. But again, it is my impression that the traffic wouldn't be extremely impacted, but I'm not under the impression that adding parking would be necessary, so I don't think it would be an impediment.
Yeah, I can speak.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
First, of all,
Any other comments from public? Any other hands raised?
Yeah, there are 4. So the next one would be Beth Courtwright.
just as an FYI, me and Lawrence did put our information in the chat.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk more about the critters and how the project could impact it. Them.
Okay, we moved on to public comment at this point.
Thanks, Mark.
So this is Beth Courtwright. I live at 30A Bigelow Road, and I support the Boy Scouts. However, I'm totally against or opposed this project for a number of reasons. Number one, I know we don't want to talk about parking, but I went out for a walk this Sunday, and there were 22 cars parked at the parking spot at the end of the dirt road. 22 cars. They were lined up and down that road for folks taking advantage of the trail. So the last thing this road needs is more traffic. I also agree with Mr. Sergi about the animals. Over the past couple of years, we just started getting geese out in this, we call it the swamp. We have ducks, turtles, rabbits, deer, beaver. The last thing I want to do is start invading their area. And I'm also concerned that the location of the trail keeps changing, and the fact that we're using tape measures and Google Maps to map out this trail when it's going to affect 42 or 44 Bigelow Road is just crazy to me. And I also want to talk about who's overseeing the structure that public folks are going to be walking on. And I'll end it there.
I think there was a question there.
So should we respond, or did you want to, Mark, did you want to hear public comments or?
Well, I mean, there's a question about who's going to oversee the structure. I mean, is it going to be built safely? I think is what the question
Yeah,
was.
so I think the Boy Scouts have shown a precedent, and projects with SOLF have shown a precedent of structures being built that have durability and are strong and trusted. I would also want to reiterate that the purpose of the project is to increase appreciation and enjoyment of resources and wetlands, and that we have people in the group who are trained ecologists, zoologists, and scientists who recognize and understand the value and treatment of property and will only serve to improve it. I'm trying to think of the other concerns. We've addressed traffic.
Also,
yeah, what else, Mark, what else did you want us to respond to?
Well, I think the question I heard from the public comment was something about the platform, make sure it's it's a safe structure that people are going to stand on it, they're not going to fall through it or fall off it or what have you.
All right, yeah, we addressed that.
Also, I go to a technical school, and my shop teacher, although he is technically a welder, does have a minor in civil engineering, and he has looked over my blueprint, and we worked on the blueprint together. He's also taught me about structural building codes, and everything on the structure, on the platform is to code with that, so.
Has the building inspector been involved in this? Because I know when I build a deck, he has to come out and inspect it. I mean, we can't go by a shop teacher, I'm sorry, when you're gonna have public walking on it.
He hasn't come out to inspect it. There are actually guidelines on a deck that if your deck exceeds certain dimensions, such as height off the ground, it will need to be inspected by a building inspector. Given the fact that the platform is only 20 inches off the ground, it doesn't meet the requirement for that. So that kind of goes back to the building to code thing.
Okay, any other comments?
Yes, I would say Sherry Wittes would be next.
Hi, Sherry Wittes, 32 Bigelow Road. I will make mine short. So I want to say that I agree with all the previous comments from both the board and other abutters that have already been said. I wanted to stress that I think that a delineation of the boundaries is important, considering that the trail has already been moved once now, seeing that the trail was put on someone else's property, which was the statement that we've said all along. I think it is a problem that the wetlands were delineated without the same regard that we take at every other NOI, just like we just had 11 Bigelow Road down the street. We asked him to come back with a full notice of intent after he had submitted an RDA. And I understand that this is a Boy Scout project, but it kind of seems as though it's two projects. I would suggest that the commission asks SOLF to remediate the invasive species and remove them or manage them, and then allow Robbie to come in and build a trail after the area is cleared and manageable for him, because they would have a plan and a system in place for that area versus have Robbie set up both and do both. And then now SOLF has this new area that they now have to manage going forward. It's almost as if two projects are being combined into one. I do think it's an issue that there aren't stamped plans when you talk about being fair and consistent when it comes to being a board. And I would suggest that the commission utilize 310 CMR 10.54 B3E, which basically requires that, or asks that they seek out to obtain any other permits, variants, or approvals by any other local board, commission, or entity in the town before they get a permit from us. So just go and inquire with the Board of Selectmen, the town engineer, the DPW, the planning board, and ensure that you don't need any other permit at the same time while you're talking to the Conservation Commission. We have grounds, I'm sorry, the commission has grounds that they don't have to approve a permit if you don't seek any permits or variances from other commissions or boards in town. So there's already contention with this project, obviously, and there's things that are outside of your jurisdiction. If you push to say that, go seek these boards and see if they need any approvals or variances, and then come back to us. If you don't need anything, fine, great, we'll approve your project or not approve your project, but at least go ask the question. And that is all I'd like to say at this moment.
I hear what you're saying. Right now, we are actually working on going to the other groups in town and making sure that everything is set for this project.
What groups have you talked to, Robbie?
We're working on talking to the selectmen, because I know there's been talk with the selectmen already by the abutters about the project. And also, I plan on contacting Melissa to see if there's anybody else, because...
Have you contacted the engineering department or DPW to see if you need a curb cut, or the planning department, because you are proposing a parking spot in the right of way of the road?
I'm going to. As of right now, I didn't know I needed that. The letter that was sent out kind of highlighted that, and I'm working on that, but obviously I'm in school right now too, so
Totally understand.
I haven't had the time to do that yet.
Every big learning process for you, I imagine.
Yes.
And I think you're doing fabulous, by the way. At your age, I could never have done this.
Thank you. Also talking about the two different projects, I've worked on numerous different Eagle projects, labor-wise. So I definitely think as far as the removal of the invasive plants and the clearing of the trail, that is within the scope of what the Boy Scouts can do. Sure, I agree, it's very ambitious, but I think it's possible. So far, getting all the permits and permissions to do it has been the hardest part of this project, so.
It usually is.
Yep.
You ask any developer around, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So, any other public comment, Melissa?
There are two. So the next hand I saw is Cynthia Cram.
Hi, this is Cynthia Cram at 44 Bigelow Road. So I just wanted to mention that I attended the last Board of Selectmen meeting on, I believe it was Tuesday evening, and we had already, as you know, sent a letter to them. So I just wanted to follow up and find out what the next steps were. So they made me aware of the fact that they do not want to overstep your jurisdiction or infringe on that. So they are looking for the Conservation Commission to reach out to them for guidance. They wouldn't get involved otherwise. Or for if Robbie goes to them too, I suppose that would work. It sounds like that might be a moot point at this point. And then my next point is that I found the notice of intent submission checklist on the town's website. And in reviewing that, I noticed that it seems that Robbie's notice of intent is at least partially incomplete. I've noticed there are some things on this list that I didn't see. And I think that's already been brought up before. So I just wanted to reiterate that fact that is it standard practice to accept an incomplete notice of intent? And I was going to mention the stamped survey map, or I'm sorry, not the survey, the stamped map is not part of the application as well, which it looks like is a requirement. And my other point was wildlife displacement, which has already been mentioned. So I believe that's a concern. I know that I have a bird that builds, or I guess it's probably a different bird, but every year it builds a nest in my tree. And one year there was a bird that was upset when we were opening the garage door. So I stopped using the garage for a couple of months, but the bird took off and left the eggs and I think some kind of animal came and ate them. So it just reminds me, I know it's a terrible example, but that reminds me of the fact that the animals are very sensitive to human interaction and they may be displaced and find another habitat because of this. And I think that's it for now, for all of my comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Madam Melissa, did you review the NOI application for completeness? As Cynthia Cram has just raised a question about whether or not it's filled out accurately.
So I think the comments that we're bringing up is more the stamp, the other things such as the abutters list and things like that don't always get posted on the public, I guess, informational packet. It's usually just what we're actually going to be using for the plan. But the notice of intent itself, had all the necessary requirements besides, the stamped plan and some of maybe the more technical aspects that are sometimes waived in terms of, borings or other types of more intense, in-depth requirements.
But in terms of an NOI application, it's accurately filled out depicting the project.
The NOI form itself, yes, and the basics that we need to get on the application, the fundamentals, yes.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Any other public comment?
There is one more, Clark.
Hi, this is Clark Lefevre from 40 Bigelow Road. I think all the other public commenters have done a job of answering all my questions. I do have one question, I think for Melissa. You referenced the other Boy Scout projects that have gone on in town and you sent a packet around to the board members. Would that be available for public? Could you make that available for us?
I can definitely send you, what I have. Some of it is just Word docs. It's not necessarily the, the final signed, but I can definitely send you what I've found. Yes.
Okay, excellent. In the basis for the question is, who is the applicant here? It seems like Robbie's answering some question, but it seems like Whitney and Lawrence are really kind of answering the questions. And it comes back, Mr. Pasamato, I think to your question. So who's responsible for this should or when something goes wrong? And so I'd like to try to dig into that a little bit, but we'll do that separately. So thank you again.
All right, thanks.
Just kind of to clear that up, I am the Eagle Scout for this project, so I'm going to be the one doing the actual construction of the trail and the platform. However, as an Eagle Scout, I don't really have any say over the land. That's why Lawrence and Whit have been helping me out a lot, because they're representatives from the landowner, from Solve. Technically, I am the applicant for the notice of intent because I'm the applicant to do the actual project.
Is the NOI signed by Solf?
It is signed by both, yes. Both Robbie and Solf as the applicant and the property owner.
Because based on the conversation and the comments I heard tonight, it's in terms of landowner contractor, if you wanted to put things in those terms, it sounds like Solf is the landowner and Robbie and the Eagle Scout and his fellow Scout members are the contractors.
Correct. And I guess I'll reference that to one of the RDAs that I found was for the Breakneck Hill parking lot. So the Eagle Scout was technically the applicant, but the town of Southborough through the Concom or stewardship, was the property owner. So we were allowing them to do this work on our property.
Yeah, okay. Okay, in terms of moving this forward at this point, I think that Ms. Wittes brought up an excellent point with respect to making sure that the other town boards or departments with respect to this project don't have any issue, or there isn't any other permits required from them, et cetera, just to clear that up before we move forward with this, I think. Any other board members have comments?
Are there just to understand, do we anticipate there being permit requirements that would influence whether or not this NOI would be allowable? What is there imagined to be some interaction between those permits and our permit? Just trying to understand the thinking.
Well, I guess I'm not sure. Is there any zoning issues here? Are there any I guess I heard that, whether a parking lot gets built or not, they would still consider moving forward with this project. So I guess it's whether or not that stays on the table, comes off the table. That's really not our purview, but.
So parking has been taken off the table. We are willing to move on with the project without requiring any sort of parking addition. So if that's the only stipulation, that would prevent Conservation Commission from moving forward.
Well, I mean, that whether you build a parking lot there or not is not our call.
Okay, so then, but I think that's the consideration of, so I think in order to keep this from being a continuance, I think that's where I'm bringing that up.
I think we're trying to hear the neighborhood as well, that we have other problems, and with no pressure to look elsewhere. and we rubber stamp it, that's not good. We're not doing our citizens any favors.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not, I want to, I'm trying to figure out how to say this.
I know it's been
I
a
know
struggle.
I hear what you're saying. I know you don't want to do them favors, but I'm just curious about what
So
you're suggesting. I guess what's coming from the Conservation Commission.
If you are willing to do it without parking, where are the people going to park? And it's not our decision whether they can put a parking lot there or not.
And we don't get to decide whether or not they put a no parking sign down at the turnaround or not.
Right.
So I think what we're hearing from the neighbors is that if the conservation approves this, is there going to be any other actions or activity taken to help mitigate the concerns of the neighborhood?
I think I'm definitely all right with the idea of letting this stand so that we can address the other issues from the town, address the abutters issues. My question to you guys is, are you okay with the project as it stands now, or do we need to do additional stuff to meet Conservation Commission requirements, or are we just waiting to kind of seal the deal on the rest of the permits and permissions that may be needed for this project?
Mark, can I have a
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
About the use of herbicides. Do they have to modify their documentation in order to do that, or are we just gonna?
We can condition it to say no
We condition
herbicides
it out,
ever.
yeah. I would rather have them update their documentation so we don't.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can
if they're
update
willing to
their
do-
documentation and we can say no herbicides ever.
Yeah, right.
We plan on updating the documentation too.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to have the information, the most accurate information out there.
And I think what Robbie is also getting to is if the plan that he has submitted, the most current one that I was sharing, is sufficient, or if there's something else that the commission is going to look for. I think that's a fundamental that you guys might want to decide on, to get him to the next step. If it's just reaching out to other departments, then I'm happy to facilitate that. But if it's, other things necessary on the plan, then you should probably, know that to start working on that as well.
Well, I think from my perspective, the Scout project that built the bridge off of Middle Road, that was an NOI. I think you said, Melissa, that there's a land surveyor stamp on the plan.
On the plan that I found, yes, there is a
So
stamp.
so it has some level of expertise. I guess it's not a civil engineer stamp, but there's a land surveyor stamp that's on the plan. And I think that for this project, I'd like to see something similar to that, me personally. It's a precedent that we set with an Eagle Scout project previously. Maybe not this commission makeup, but the commission makeup that existed then. I just worry about setting precedent that can come back and, bite us later.
Melissa, how many projects did you say didn't have the stamp versus one that did?
So from what I could find, the determinations of applicability, which is kind of like the step down application, did not seem to have stamps, while the notice of intent did. I think one of the Templeton Woods / town forest notice of intent, I did not find a stamped plan for, but that was also, I think, about 15 or so years ago. And I'm not quite sure. I didn't have as many files on that as some of the other ones.
Yeah, I think the Templeton Woods isn't as close to so many abutters.
Well, I think Lawrence, the issue is, an RDA coming in front of us versus whether we decide to issue it a negative determination of applicability based on its impact. And therefore letting that project move forward with a negative determination and then any particular maybe conditions that we determine around that versus it's a positive determination, therefore moving it forward to an NOI process.
Mark, can I answer a question relative to, or ask a question relative to that?
Sure.
Should Robbie have, you know, done this through an RDA instead of going right to a notice of intent?
Well, he could have, but I think it would have been a positive determination and we'd be in the same spot.
Okay.
That's just my gut reaction to that. So
Even with such a de minimis impact on the wetland resource area?
I think so, because of the mitigation of the invasives and you know, everything that's being proposed.
Well, we didn't have to propose the mitigation. We were asked to do the mitigation. And we submitted the plan in response to the request to do mitigation. So I know that's sort of going over old ground and we're past that. But with respect to the NOI that does have a stamped civil engineers or civil engineers stamp on it, that was a much more involved project than putting up a simple platform, much simpler than the bridge, which involved safety issues, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I'm sorry.
I don't know that this is absent of safety issues either. Personally, I'm not going to make that assessment, but
this one, it doesn't require the town engineer's review. It doesn't require planning board review. The selectmen have said, gee, we don't really have jurisdiction here. And what other, you know, boards or commissions might we have to go to? Not the DPW, unless and until we decide that we'd like to put in a couple of, you know, single car parking area spots on either side of the boulder. And that would be a future decision. And we would, you know, go to whatever authorities there are to seek permission if it's needed.
or a sign where the bus turnaround is. You'd have to go to DPW or somebody for that. As
Well,
you mentioned
that's
earlier.
not our responsibility. And I will add that, in fact, it's not a dead end road. I've heard Mr. Sergey say in 2 different meetings, it's a dead end road. It's not. You can drive through, maybe not with a car that has very low ground clearance, but it does go through. And
That's not a maintained way, sir.
well, it may not be maintained, but
Therefore, it's not a public way.
it's
The only
path-
thing that hasn't been done has been deeded back to the landowners.
Well, it may be abandoned and not discontinued. That's the 2 different levels on roadways that, you know, no longer in use.
Well, again, that's not our jurisdiction.
Right.
Right. Well,
So-
but it's something that seems to be popping up.
Motion to continue?
Yeah, we need to continue. We have more work to do tonight. We've
Yeah, motion to
talked about
continue.
this another hour.
Yeah.
But we're having a hard time understanding what exactly from the Conservation Commission end. And I hear a lot of protection of the neighborhood. It's definitely a strong sentiment.
So let me, you know, I don't want to be harsh, but Lawrence, I'll put it this way. If an engineer surveyed that property and had come in here with a stamp plan with the wetland flags identified from the edge of the wetland to where that wetland is exactly at, we would have not have talked about this for 3+ hours over many nights of meetings.
Yeah.
Right. So we've been trying to work with you on this, but those kinds of things are the requirements that we have for an NOI. And I think what you're hearing is this commission is providing a lot of latitude and leeway because this is a scout project, and we encourage scout projects in town to help our lands and our open space and so forth. But this one feels like we're trying to put a square peg through a round hole, in my opinion. And there's just some things that we need to do for NOIs, you know, and maybe not all the commission members agree with me on this, but, you know, I think some of the angst here is around that.
Just to be absolutely clear, are you looking for a official survey or are you looking for engineering approval on the platform? What exactly are you looking for that stamp, so to speak?
Well, the platform construction, that's not the Conservation Commission's, you know, purview to tell you how to build that, right? You know, that falls within the building department or, you know, whatever. That's not what we do. right? But what we do is we protect the wetland. We understand where the wetland edge is, where the 20-foot buffer is off that, where the 100-foot buffer is off the edge of the wetland. And then understanding what your impact of that is going to be. And if you need to mitigate that impact by doing things, and one of the things that's been proposed here is the invasive species vegetation mitigation, right? And that's what NOIs have as far as their involvement. And you know, me personally, I'm struggling a little bit with that because we're trying to use GIS maps. We've already now moved the pathway from where it was before over because it looks like it was either close to or encroaching on a butter's piece of property. So it's been moved over. But where's the edge of this exactly? We're using GIS maps. They're not, my understanding is, you know, all that perfectly accurate, you know, and so forth. I'm rambling now. So if anybody on the commission is in a disagreement with me, please speak up. Okay, I think we need to continue this.
Motion to continue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do I hear a vote by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yeah.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Passamoto.
Yes.
So could you give us direction on what we need to do when to come back to another hearing?
I think we
From my
can-
perspective, I thought I did.
I think we can contact Melissa on that too, because I know I was planning on contacting her and some other people from the town just to make absolutely sure that we have everything we need as far as permits from every branch. Just because obviously the abutters have a lot of concerns about the upper portion of the trail as well.
Yeah, Robbie, I'm happy to talk with you at any point. You know, we can touch base either tomorrow or early next week and go over everything.
Mark, could you clarify if you're just automatically continuing it until the next meeting? Or sorry,
thank you.
hearing?
Very, very good point. We have to continue to a date certain.
12/3.
12/3. Thank you, Katie, for pointing that out.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. And Robbie, I want to commend you on your continued pursuit of this. You know, I think you're a very well-spoken young man, and you have a lot of aspiration.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Lot 5 Granule Road. They've asked for a continuance until 12/3. Melissa, is that right?
Yes, and it'll probably be again on 12/3. I guess just as an update, the Board of Health has been really backlogged in doing soil testing, so they finally got a date, I think, of 12/5. So they're not intentionally continuing or, not purposely putting it off, but they finally will have a date to finish their design.
So are we continuing to 12/3 or the meeting
I
after
would
that?
continue to 12/3 for right now.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to continue Lot 5 Granule Road to December 3rd?
So moved.
You hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Passamoto.
Yes. Oh, make a note that Sherry has rejoined the commission in the minutes. Thank you. Newer continued business discussion, Halloran CR, that's being continued because they couldn't make it tonight.
Yes, that is correct. Mr. Belniak wanted me to make a point that he has had some communication issues with Attorney Nealon, kind of like what me and Aldo had experienced as well. So he apologizes for not being able to make it, and does request to be heard on the 12/3 meeting. Just I made the point to him that the commission, really does want to talk with him and make the effort because of the, what he's done for us in terms of access prior. And that, holding his attorney's miscommunication against him wasn't the intent. So that's kind of the update on that.
Okay, thanks. Then we have a certificate of compliance for 18 Wood Street, DEP number 290-368.
Yep, so this was an old order that came up because they are selling the house. So I met the homeowners out there. I think a few of you might have been out to the property a couple years ago for some tree removal. And I did find, thankfully they had an as-built, an old one. It just looked like the builder had not come back once the site was stable, because I did have records that they submitted for a COC request, but it was just never issued. The commission found it in compliance back then, and then it remains so today.
So there are no outstanding issues here?
No outstanding issues, nope.
All right, so do I hear a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 18 Wood Street?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Watson. Sorry.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Heat.
Yep.
Guyer.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Wittes.
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. Okay, then there's the issuance of order conditions for 81 Breakneck Hill Road, DEP number 290-1062.
So this was my bad. I never had us go back at the last meeting to actually issue the order of conditions. I'm not sure if you guys saw the conditions. I put them on the Dropbox. I can bring them up now if you'd like, but they were pretty standard. Just
What do we say about the well? I forgot.
the well is going to be abandoned.
Telephone pole?
Telephone pole is going to be removed and cut at the base.
And are those in the order?
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Hold on 1 second. So this is the work within the 20-foot buffer. The proposed driveway, the existing culvert shall remain. Mitigation is the stone trench. The existing utility pole shall remain and be cut flush to the ground. And then the row of boulders. There's nothing in here on the well, but I think that's because they amended the plan to specifically call out that it was going to be abandoned and backfilled. But I can add that in if that's what the commission would like.
I guess I'm okay either way. I don't know if other commission members have an opinion one way or the other. Looks like Ben Smith is in the same camp I am. All right, so do I hear a motion to issue the order conditions as written?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Guyer.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Wittes.
Yep.
Pasamato.
Yes. Okay, next we have the amendment to the stormwater management permit for Chestnut Hill Farm.
This is what we discussed at the last meeting. The trustees just sent me over the stamped site plan. So the request was just to update our stormwater management plan to reference the new plan and stormwater report.
Okay, so We need a motion to accept the plan and amend the SMP.
Correct.
So moved.
Okay. There's a second.
Second?
Okay, all in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Passamoto.
Yes. Okay, then we have the discussion of a liaison, a conservation commissioner as a liaison for Chestnut Hill Farm.
Yeah, so I told DA and the trustees group that they didn't have to be here tonight because we kind of discussed it at the last meeting. We just wanted Sherry to be a part of the discussion. But for, I guess, a reminder, the trustees asked for a liaison, so a representative of the Conservation Commission to kind of work with them to start updating kind of the various plans or be the go-to person when they have questions. Obviously, this person wouldn't be making any decisions. It would still be made by the commission as a whole, but at least there's kind of one person that would, you know, with my help kind of be as a go-between between the trustees and the commission to kind of keep up the communication that we've been having recently. I think it'd be a good effort on both to get this liaison in place because it's such an active property and there's a lot to the CR. So it's just who wants to take the job.
Do we have any volunteers? While they're all jumping through the monitor at once.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
This is, I know we've had liaisons to other government run government projects, things like that, right? But this is a private ownership, right? And when I heard about this, my antenna went up and said, I don't know, you know, that this person might be representing in some way a private property owner for conservation thing matters. And I just like to, I don't know if anybody else feels about this, but you might want to check to make sure this won't put somebody into a conflict of interest, because we can't represent before any board. My understanding of it, we can't represent before a board. I mean, fine, go ahead, yeah.
I think what they're asking for is just, you know, somebody that they can reach out to and say, hey, we're thinking about this.
Yeah.
What do you think? You know, and then take it to the commission, right?
Let's take it to the commission is you know, we have to be careful. I think that's what we don't.
So it wouldn't be a representative for the trustees. It would be a representative for the Conservation Commission that the trustees can relay this information to, for that person to present with the trustees, you know, to the commission to make the decision.
That's with the trustees, I think, is where you might.
But it's not on behalf of the trustees. So you're not working for the trustees and representing the trustees. You're representing the Conservation Commission, you know, by relaying the information that the commission feels, you know, should be included in the next management plan. You know, so it's working on that, you know, with the input from the commission and bringing it to the trustees. So it's really just, instead of you guys, you know, while you can still tell me to tell the trustees to do something, you would then be telling this person on the commission to say, hey, this is what we feel for the management plan, you know, you work it out with them, and then the final product you bring back to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I had understood the conversation on the last meeting, is rather than trying to take a lot of time working through specific topics or issues during our 3 weekly meetings, that person would be available to talk to the trustees about things in more detail at more length, and then come with, whether it's a set of questions or a set of concerns or whatever, back to the meeting. So I felt it was more of a role to kind of try and expedite the process, recognizing that, you know, I think we said in the last meeting that we you know, both sides want to really kind of focus on being collaborative as we go forward?
I'm a little uncomfortable with it also. I share a little of Carl's concern. Also, that has been really kind of, fulfilling this role. And I'm afraid, first as a commission, we sort of do our best work as a group when we get together and discuss, and the best ideas sort of rise to the surface. And I would be worried for the one commissioner who, I don't know that any one of us can speak on behalf of the whole commission to really give useful advice to Chestnut Hill without having, first gone through any particular issue with the commission as a whole. I think it would put that commissioner kind of in a difficult spot because they're a commissioner, and I think it's a role that Melissa has been fulfilling very well. To date, I think it would duplicate efforts in an uncomfortable way for me, I think.
I think as Carl brought up some points, and you too, Ben, as I'm thinking through this, I think we already have that liaison, and it is Melissa.
Yeah, and I think Melissa's role is proper, and I'm just that one of us getting too deeply involved with them, it might make that appearance. It's the appearance thing.
Well, it also compromises your ability to be impartial.
Yeah.
Potentially for a particular issue when it comes in front of the commission.
They can send us a liaison.
Right.
Why don't they send us one?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys
they're
are,
asking for a hostage.
well, I think that was the response to, the commission's wanting to be not necessarily more involved, which you of course do, but making sure that, you guys have the voice that you want. If you're comfortable with me continuing that role in the capacity that I have been, I think that's fine. I think, as long as you guys are comfortable, I guess obviously I wouldn't represent you with anything other than what you told me to do. But they just wanted to make sure that that is what the commission wanted, and it wasn't actually one of you to feel like you were more, I guess, involved in the communication aspect of it.
Well, I also think that your accessibility is much greater than any one of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're running a farm up there. They may need to have, some particular decision or something made quickly, i.e. the coyote issue, for example.
Yeah, that was
to
a
bring
nice
one up.
5 p.m. on a Friday. Yeah.
So I think, from my perspective, I think Melissa is our liaison. I don't know if anybody else disagrees. There's a thumbs up from Mr. Pete. And one from Miss Wittes here. Okay, I think we all agree then that's how we'll operate moving forward.
Great deal.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad you're faith in me.
We'll get you a hat.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody's saying something?
I was just saying, I think she needs a lot of different hats, in fact.
Yeah. See, review of Conservation Commission actions from OSRP.
So I'm going to suggest that we delay this one to the next meeting, because I only got the document to Melissa, I think, early yesterday. So I appreciate that not everyone's probably had a chance to go through it. And I think given our lengthy discussions early this evening on another project, I think in the interest of people's
Zoom fatigue.
personal time, including mine, I haven't eaten yet.
Yeah,
So,
me either.
I'm feeling kind of like blood sugar's a bit low to do this one. So if that's okay with you, let's do it next.
That's fine with me.
Okay,
I've been in
great.
Zoom meetings since 2 p.m. nonstop.
Oh yeah. Well,
Just quickly, I did notice, Judith, I think you sent me a message to my town email address, which I just saw because I logged in to get into this meeting. Maybe I can pass you another, or go through Melissa to get to my other email address. But,
Oh, I have the other one. I
Oh.
just thought we were all using the Southbow one. Okay,
I do once every 3 weeks.
Oh, whoops. Okay, so you see, I mean, just when you have a minute, just take a look at.
Yeah, now I see it, so I'll
I
look
was
at it.
guessing you were super busy, so.
Also.
Okay, any reports from Lucas Environmental, Matt?
No, not really. Melissa feeds me a few projects here and there, but not a heck of a lot going on in town from my perspective. But I stand at the ready.
Stand at the ready.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a movie my grandkids watch called Rock Dog. Anyways. Okay, then nothing further.
Well, if we want to issue the 11B Bigelow and the ANRAD.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
that's-
So for 11B Bigelow, I think the one condition that we talked about was the condition on discharge. So would you rather, we can do both. We can have the condition of if the pool is to be drained, it is to be taken off site. And then I also just looked up that condition on the wording on the equipment. And then, it just states that the signage on pool equipment shall remain in perpetuity and be installed prior to the issuance of certificate of compliance, and proposed language and signage shall be submitted to the office for approval prior to the installation and to be placed on the pool equipment regarding discharge areas or condition. So do you just kind of want to copy what we did for, this was 30 Presidential Drive for that swimming pool?
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. So other than that, it's just the standard conditions, and then the findings of fact are that the proposed project is a pool, and about the erosion controls in the approved plan that I will update to the one that they just submitted tonight that was shown.
Okay. There a motion to accept those set of conditions for 11, is it 11A?
11B. Bigelow.
11B, Bigelow. There's a second?
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yeah.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
And then it's just issuing the order of resource area delineation with the plan as submitted tonight with the wetland flags as shown for 96 Mount Vickery.
We hear a motion to move that forward?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes. Wittes, I didn't hear you.
You said
sorry.
yes.
Oh, Pasamato.
Yes.
And then the only other thing that I got right before the meeting, there was a certificate of compliance for 21 Pine Hill Road that was issued many, many years ago. And I have a copy of it, but it looks like it was never recorded. So I wanted to see if the commission was okay with re-signing a new copy of their certificate of compliance so it could be recorded. But I did find the, I guess, copy of the certificate of compliance. It's only a copy, not an original.
You just missed getting recorded?
Yeah, yep. So just need a new signature, fresh signature for the registry.
You've been emptying these drawers, haven't you, in that virtual desk, Melissa? And you.
No, it's all these houses selling. They come up.
Love all of this. You're finding all this stuff.
I found a lot recently, but no, there's a lot of houses being sold. So a lot of these.
Yeah,
older
I saw that. Yeah.
But so this is one of them, which thankfully we have the certificate of compliance. It just wasn't recorded. So, and the original is long gone. Because it was 290-232.
So we need a motion to sign
wouldn't
it.
hurt. Yeah, motion to re-sign.
Motion to re-sign.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Geyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Then the only other thing I will say is I set up a GIS day. There's 3 webinars for November 18th. So if you're available, feel free to sign up. Otherwise, they will be available on YouTube afterwards. And I also might have MAPC, which is the Metro West Planning Commission, do another one probably the day after or something. So that might be coming too. So I'm very excited for who we got. So we have the Mass GIS Outreach Coordinator is going to be at 10. Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas, who I have known a long time, is going to be doing a GIS in the private sector. And then a representative from GCR is going to be at 4 talking about the bird harassment program and how they use GIS for their goal surveys. So that's the exciting news of the day.
Great job, Melissa.
Pulled that together really fast, but it's there.
Add that to our OSRP tracking. I just have one quick one. Deerfoot Road. I went out there whenever it rained last, or the day after, just to take a look. Because I know, that kept coming up every meeting. I sent some photos to Melissa, but it looked to me like that whole area after the paving project is now stable. I didn't see any runoff. I didn't see any evidence that walls were collapsing or earth was kind of moving out. So is it safe to assume that all those issues that were raised by the abutters are now kind of addressed, Melissa?
That's the belief of the DPW and their consultant. So they did have their kind of reviewer go out after the paving was done and agreed with that. I haven't heard from any of the abutters with any complaints with the recent rainstorms, and I haven't seen any silt either. With the nature of the road, the water on the shoulder runs a little bit wider, but that's so the velocity isn't so strong going into the catch basin. But all the water is going where it's supposed to be going. There's no ponding and there's no siltation. So that final pave should have done the job, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it. And, if any abutters reach out, we'll deal with it as they come.
Okay. Great.
Okay, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yep.
Geyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
All right, that is it.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Stay safe and healthy.
Have a wonderful
True.
Thanksgiving.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. You too, Melissa.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.